Hello and welcome. I'm Miles from Kiki Bristol, and this is a gathering of organisations supporting queer, trans, and intersex people of colour. We have representation from Bristol, from Cardiff, Manchester, and Brighton. This is one of the first times we've all sat down and kind of interacted and discussed how our organisations came about. You're going to hear in this discussion about topics like burnout and collaboration and supporting the community. We're having this conversation online this year as part of Bristol Pride, but we would love in the future to be able to have it in person, to invite other people into the discussion and think about how our cities can work better collaboratively. So I hope you find the discussion really interesting, and I will now hand over to the moderator, Laura.
Hey, it's your girl Laura from Kiki. I am hosting our cross-city QTIPOC collaboration for today, and I am joined by these wonderful people. So I'm going to start with Tarek. Please introduce yourself, your organisation, and your pronouns.
My name is Tarek El Mutawakil from Radical Rhizomes, a QTIPOC social hangout gathering that happens in Brighton. My pronouns are he, him.
And then we'll go to the lovely Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda. My pronouns are she mostly, but they also applies. He sometimes applies. And I am co-founder for Kiki, which is a QTIPOC organization in Bristol mostly, but kind of covers the Southwest as well. And our remit is to create safe social spaces for people of colour who have of any queer, trans, intersex persuasion. Why did I make that so long?
It's fine, I love it.
We were founded in 2017. I'm terrible with dates. Something's gone and it's behind me. So yes, that's us. Kiki.
Perfect. And Vish?
Yes, my name is Vish. I'm the founder and chair of Glitter Cymru. We're a social and support group for LGBT plus ethnic minority people since 2016, and my pronouns are they, them.
Perfect. And finally, Chloe.
Hello, my name's Chloe. I'm strategic lead for Rainbow Noir, which is a QTIPOC social peer support and community action group based in Manchester. My pronouns are she and her.
Perfect, wonderful. So yeah, as I said, we're doing this for Bristol Pride, and this is a pioneering event that's really just never really been done before, and it's all about collaboration because we need to co-support and co-prosper together, I feel. So we're going to first start with the topic of survival, because survival is integral to all of our lives and our networks and our communities. So I'm going to first talk about organizational survival, if you don't mind. So the first question is, and I'd like Chloe to first answer this because you are more up north, I'd say, than us. So it's just to get that regional difference. So do you think if you left your group, or if your group just left today, your organization would still exist? And how would it kind of function, do you think, without the people that are currently running it?
First of all, thank you for prioritizing the North, because no one ever does. So we got Laura 10 points already. Would it survive? Yeah, I think like it's an interesting kind of question actually, because over the last year I've learned to ask for help and stop being so controlling. Controlling cousins is definitely a nickname of mine. So yeah, it kind of was started off by 4 Black queer women, and then everybody kind of did their own thing a little bit. Some people stuck around a bit longer, got PhDs in Brighton, had life happenings, and so it kind of then turned into 3, then to 2, then it was just me for a while, and then I started another person. No, actually there was 3 of us, and then there was 1. So it's kind of jumped in and out of being like group thing, solo thing, group thing, solo thing. And I think I've kind of been core to that since 2012. So I think as the longest standing person, I think I've had like, I can see it all, I can see all the history, I've got all the links, it's all in my head, I know how it all works. And actually that's like a massive thing to kind of carry around. And I think my partner's been good at prodding me to be like, you know, you don't have to do this by yourself, you know. And actually, even though I've known that in my heart, probably because of my quite I hate admitting that I'm controlling. It's embarrassing. It's quite embarrassing, really.
No.
But actually, you know, when you love and care about something and you're used to doing it in a certain way and running it in a certain way, and it just becomes routine, doesn't it? And bringing on new people takes time and patience, and you've got to allow for growth. And actually, you know, sometimes it felt like, oh, do I have time to bring other people in? It's quicker to just send that email myself. It's quicker to do that myself. And to be honest, it was kind of like, whilst I love Rainbow Noir so much, it was just becoming a bit too much in terms of, you know, my life. So I'm happy to say actually that if I was to fly away somewhere exciting tomorrow for a year, it would definitely still happen.
Okay.
So help facilitate that flying away, that would be great.
Nice. Oh no, trust me, as soon as I get mine, you get yours, kind of thing.
But yeah, bringing more people on definitely I think has enabled it to stand more within the community and less in my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Tarek, so you've been because you're the shortest organisation out here, so it's kind of good to get a long-standing one and the shortest. Like, what is your kind of opinion? Like, if you flew away to your utopia tomorrow, because we all know that should exist somewhere, but if you did, would it still be around? And kind of talk about the conception of it and then lead into that.
So we are the baby of the bunch, and we've existed for about a year and a half. We're funded by the Rainbow Fund, which gets money from Brighton Pride. So Brighton Pride people make donations during the week, and I think also from ticket sales as well. That then goes to Rainbow Fund, and then they dish out money to local communities. And I had a realization. It might have actually I'm sure having visited Rainbow Noir once for an event a couple of years ago, I think it was now, and just becoming more and more aware of the QTIPOC in the city that I live in. Being, you know, in the past I was told that if I said that I don't know many QTIPOC in my life, in my personal life, and, you know, my day to day, I would be told by the white people that I would say that to. That the white queers, they would tell me that it's, oh well, you know, it's Brighton, you're not going to meet many. But actually there are loads of us in this city. We're all over the place, we're all over the world. We're just very rarely afforded space in which we can be like, hey, here we are, and this is us representing, you know, here we are loud and clear. So that pushed me to think, let's go to Rainbow Fund and ask if they can fund one of these. And actually it was the application to Rainbow Fund was the first application that they'd received from queer people of colour to do something, which, and part of the reasoning for wanting to make this application in the first place was to let queer people of colour in the city know that they're entitled to things, that there's money out there for that. They can have an idea and go and apply for it, and then they can make their dreams come true, or like a little bit true. So Rhizomes is a way of sort of getting that started, by first of all bringing us together as a community, and then being us being able to dream and vision together.
So if you were to leave, then do you think at the current state you would be able to keep running? And that's okay if you can't, but
well,
it wouldn't.
Yeah, and I think that's an important question, because I've been doing kind of community organising for a bunch of years, and the last thing that I ran, which I was there for almost 20 years, but 10 years of running it did start to feel like if I left, it wouldn't survive in its current form. And so when creating Rhizomes, we wanted to make sure that if I wasn't able to be there, that it was still resourced, and that it's not relying on me and my own personal energies, that is actually funding for it to pay someone to do the job. And I think that's so important. So much of the time, marginalised people, we make our own communities, but then they rely on certain members of those communities, and then those members of the communities can easily burn out, and they don't want to burn out, and so there's this kind of thing as, no, but I have to just keep going, and that's just not fair actually for those individuals, because it also, in my experience, made me feel like I wasn't really a member of that community. I was just kind of there to serve it and provide for it, and then that feels like a trap or a burden, and I hate it when my community, people that I love or whatever, or something that I love, makes also simultaneously feels like a burden. So it was very important to me that we went into this as a resourced project. And I'm really wanting to remind people to go to their local city councils and to their Pride events and be like, hey, fund some shit for us.
Okay, so that's important, and I want to kind of draw on the fact that Vish, like, how has your community been integral in your organizational survival? How have you interlinked the two together to make sure that it's not just relying on you and you're not just there to serve, but you're there to serve and also be a part of, and also be able to detach yourself as well? Have you been able to do that? Yeah.
I think it can be challenging. As Chloe said, I think I echo some of the things they said about initially when we started 4 years ago, it was like a solo project almost, like, you know, you're organizing everything. And but as the years go on, you meet your community and you get more empowerment, you get more motivation, and then you gain that trust as well. It's like, oh, there's other people there who have the same mentality as me. They want to take it, you know, they want to take on some work as well, and they can add that amazing perspective on growing the group. So I think the community is undoubtedly the foundation of our group, you know, because it keeps us going. And yeah, like for me, it can't just be about myself or like the committee, you know, it has to be about, it is important that the group's voices are clear to us, you know. So, and I think the key to that is communication, making sure there's, you know, it's not like a hierarchy of like, oh, we're the organizers and you're the committee, you know, the community group. There has to be like a bridge in between, you know. I think that's
how do you
important.
create that bridge? Like, what is that bridge? Because I think what I found, and Linda, I want you to jump in this at some point, but like I found it's very hard to reach a community when they're very sporadic and they're quiet for a reason. And so like, how do you have a gap? Like, where is that gap? And how do you fill it? Vish and then Linda.
I think with Glitter is that we've used like technology to our advantage. So for example, with our WhatsApp groups, we're like practically every day messaging each other, you know, and we know what each other's concerns are. Sometimes that can be quite overwhelming, like say if you're trying to offer support to individuals. But again, it's about setting up boundaries, which I'm sure we'll discuss a bit later.
Yeah.
But I think using technology to your advantage and making sure we're all on the same page and thinking, oh, right, okay, so that person needs that support. Oh, we need to do this initiative to draw attention to this issue, you know? So I think that's what's helped us, I think.
Perfect. And Linda, what do you think Kiki has done really well in order to in engaging with their community, and how do you think that has helped us in terms of our organizational survival? Because it's not only just QTIPOC that help us, is it? It's like allies. So like,
yeah, so I'm not entirely sure whether it's specific to Bristol particularly, but because we've got 2 universities in the town, there's quite a transient population of people of colour. And when I first arrived from London 8 years ago, and I'd go out on what scene there was, and I literally saw no black people. When I asked some of the white lesbians I knew in the city who you know, where are all the black gay people? And I was told there was Black Mandy, and that was the only person. There was one person people could name, which I found really shocking.
And she was called Black Mandy.
Yeah, let's not get into how inappropriate that is. But yeah, so please go on.
Absolutely, I know. Yes, it made me stop for pause. It made me pause as well. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. So so that was the initial response, and then having you know, met just black people on the art scene, and one person in particular, Edson, who I kept complaining to, go, it's not right. Do you know any black gay people? Anyway, he eventually put me in touch with first Sharifa, then Peter, and then Lara, and we got an opportunity to use a space for free, because that was also another issue that we struggled with, was finding a space that we could afford, because obviously it's voluntary, we didn't have any funding at the time. That's how we begun. Since then, we've grown from that, and we've now got a core group of 6 people, and we've got a membership that's as many or as little as, depending on who's in the city. I think the feeling I got was that a lot of people who are queer in the city either go to London or go to Birmingham or something, and don't tend to stay in Bristol. So a lot of the queer people I've met have either come and gone, or there's this small core group. In terms of sort of sustainability and being supported, we have had a lot of support from our allies essentially, and funding has come for events from Bristol Pride, or from, you know, we've had collaborations because lots of people want to collaborate with us. There was clearly a gap and a need for this organisation, because as soon as we founded ourselves, people were falling over themselves to want to engage with us. So there was clearly a gap.
Yeah, sorry.
Go on. Well, you might need to wind me up, because sometimes I can ramble on.
No. I just it's just that fact that like we can all agree that our community is the foundation as well as the glue that like binds us and keeps us sustainable, right? But I kind of wondering about personal survival now, because like I have a tendency, like I said, I'm a control freak. Like I'm an organizer. I don't like being organized, and I feel like with Kiki I've been able to organize my own things, but like again, because of that, I take it on by myself solo, and it can affect me or my work in some ways, and in ways that I don't want to admit. And I have burnt out on more than one occasion, not just with this, my PhD and everything. So I want to just come to you, Linda. Like, I know you do a lot, so how do you personally not burn out?
There's this business, isn't it? If you want something done, ask a busy person. And I guess that's the same with all of these people that I'm hearing and seeing here. We're all very good at achieving stuff. So I think, how do I keep myself sane? Is trusting people, actually, like really doing my best to, because like you, I'm not a control freak actually. But I know that if I say I'm going to do something, I can absolutely depend on myself to do that, and that's not always the case with other people. So that's where the kind of control issue comes. So I've been really working hard on trusting people when they say they're going to do something, giving them the space to do it. If they fall over, we're all learning, aren't we? No one's perfect. So there's kind of letting go a bit of that need to be the one who's in control, because I know I can trust myself. I need to trust other people. And if it doesn't happen, no one's going to die. It's not brain surgery. It's okay. Yeah. Other things I do to survive is just make sure that I leave plenty of time to myself to get lots of exercise. So I've got my endorphins are topped up, eating well, sleeping, really basic
levels of care.
Basic care, and making sure that all parts of myself are fulfilled. I DJ, I do lots of activities that keep me excited and engaged in life. That's how I do it.
Perfect. And Chloe, you said that you had you've established this way of looking after yourself, and your partner has also said you need to do the same. So how have you taken a step back and reassessed and like really put yourself first, instead of, because obviously our organizations are amazing, but if we don't put ourselves first, we can't give ourselves to our organizations the way that we want to. So how have you been able to take that breath?
I think, to be honest, I think my partner's been quite influential in that, because I think there has probably felt times in previous relationships also where it feels like I'm putting work first, and it's probably not just Rainbow Noir that happens with. Like, I think I can be very work oriented, or perhaps I'm just very like, oh, I need to do it, and have a sense of I need to do it. If I don't do it now, like so it's kind of just also having a back and kind of thinking about what are my priorities, and yes, this is a priority, but actually so are all these other things. So I can't take credit for that. It was my partner kind of saying, oi, like, I'm here too, kind of thing. And I'm really glad she did that, because I think actually if I was single, I probably would just be working all the time, which is really bad. So I'm learning to kind of like look at the bigger picture, and kind of what Linda said, sometimes if things don't happen, that's fine, and I'm learning to say no more, and kind of feeding back on, I think Linda, you said, when you established, people really wanted to do stuff with you, and that can be really positive, but it can also be really negative, because it's kind of like, well, why now? We've been here for a while, or don't expect us to do work in a collab. Actually, why don't you change your structures and do something over there? Because also recognizing what we want to do, and there's so many ways that we could grow. We could do counselling, we could do this, but we don't want to. And actually, there are services that need to do that, who are already getting paid, who, that's their work. We're, in essence, a social group in its very purest form. We do other bits as well, but it's kind of being able to say, actually, this is what we are, and not let other people dictate our future and our pace, which I think for some years I was really like, oh, we've got to be this, people have all these expectations, we've got to, and the pace of things and my workload was really being dictated by all this outside stuff. So really like allowing myself to say, no, not going to do that panel. No, that's not worth our time there. No, if you're not going to pay us, I'm not going to do it. No, we're not going to do that because we're not ready. You know what I mean?
Sorry.
It's
Yeah, no payment, no.
when we get there.
Yes, yes. Sorry, not to cut over you. I hate doing that, but like, I just want to stress that if you're not going to pay or at least offer some type of coverage or payment, no, sorry, no, because it's unpaid labor, and Black people and people of color have been doing that for centuries. And
It's also what leads us to burn out when we keep doing these things where there's no exchange, and that's how we burn out. So when we say no, that is like, well, I'm saying no because I want to carry on doing this. I want to carry on doing it. I don't want to burn out in a few months or a year. I want it to be consistent and sustainable.
Sustainable.
So, no.
Yeah, and that's what it's something I wanted to ask you, Terry. Like, where do you draw the line? Because like, I'm also the type of person that I'm a yes woman, but also a no woman now. But like, I'm also a yes because I'm like, oh, but if I don't do it, then people like, what about the younger kids that want to see role models? And like, do you know, all those things go through your mind thinking like, okay, but like, what if this is a really good thing? What if this is the exposure that I want or need, or my organization wants or need? Like, so how do you draw the lines, and where do you draw the lines? Like, where are the boundaries to our personal survival? Tarek.
That's a good question, Sheldon. So where are the boundaries to our personal survival when we are being asked to do things with our organisations that could be potentially, it's that thing about there's always this potential, and I guess maybe as marginalised people we're used to like looking at the potentials of things, and so it can feel extra like this fish like hook thing that's trying to pull you in. I've got more, and I think in my with founding Marlborough Productions, which is and the Marlborough Theatre, which is a theatre company based in Brighton. We had a building until like just the lockdown. We left it just before the lockdown deliberately, nothing to do with the lockdown. That was our own plan. That having done that for a number of years, that led me to learn that when I start new projects, in the foundations of it, build in making sure that we don't burn out, basically, and that we have, because I think the Marble project was one that kind of, we didn't burn out, but we could have done many times, and we're basically kind of always close to it. So it's kind of built into the fabric of Rhizomes, is that like what we exist for social reasons. I'm not. One of the things that actually how I've designed this, I'm not sure if it's answering your question, but I feel like it might do, is that I want people just to have a nice time. A lot of the time, QTIPOC or any marginalised community if we're together, we're like, okay, people are like, you can be together, but in order to be together, you have to fill in this questionnaire. In order to be together, you have to jump over these hurdles. So I'm very much like, hey, everyone come to this thing, or people come to this thing if you want to. There's no pressure. Come or don't come. I'm not going to ask you to do anything. Get involved with the activities that we're doing, or don't. It's fine. It's all very like no pressure. And then kind of similarly, I feel like I'm trying to give that to myself as well. Obviously, we still want to make the events happen, but I think I've done some work to make myself not feel like if I don't do it, their lives will be ruined.
Yeah.
Now, I do think, though, having said that, it is important to know that the work that we do is really valuable and does change people's lives. And, I know of at least one person who, I think they've actually managed to make it long to our own events, but I know that someone did take their own life a year or so ago, who was someone who would have been a member of our community, and that happened in our city. And it reminds me of the real value of the work that we do. And then that also then makes it like extra difficult sometimes to lay those boundaries down that are like, no, I actually do need to just stop. Now I mainly just stop at 6 p.m. If it's 6 p.m, I'm done. I'm kind of just trying to stick within normal working hours.
Yeah.
Apart from, but again in this situation, I decided not to, because we're going to go past 6:30. But as a result, I get to hang out with 4 QTIPOC who I haven't done before, so that felt like it was actually also giving stuff to me. It feels like an exchange. I knew that I would leave this conversation feel like we'd had, and like I would feel good from it. I'd more I spend time just hanging with QTIPOC. I always feel lifted.
That's the point. I think it's like a judgment call, right? It's like you can, like, it's not about burning yourself out, but I feel like it's more about doing as much as you can, but again, also getting that restoration back. So like getting that pride back, I don't know, getting that sense of belonging back. I feel like once a lot of the things that we do, it's not a lot of us in it. It's not like, especially when it's collaborations, I feel sometimes like collaborations often don't mean what they always mean. So Vish, like, what is your kind of take on the coping mechanisms and like saying no, and who do you say like no to and why, kind of thing?
I think saying no is very personal, isn't it? I think it's just about listening to your like inner self and just saying like, does this make me feel comfortable? But at the same time, I think there is, as other people have mentioned, there's a bit of a pressure, isn't it, to put your group's name out there, put our community names out there to show that visibility. But sometimes you just, you know, you want to be in an environment where there's no pressure. And I think a lot of our meetups at Glitter, there is that emphasis that there is no pressure. You know, you just come along, you contribute what you like, you may do a bit of activism, you may not, and that's fine. You know, you can do whatever you like. So I think having that, making sure that's clear is important. In regards to like saying no, I've always found it difficult saying no, and I've also found it difficult asking for money. I've always, like, you know, when organizations come along and say, oh, can you be on our panel? Can you, you know, do such and such? And can you do some research? And so I think maybe over the past year or so, like as more requests come in, and, you know, other organizations wanting more of your attention, I think it's important to have those boundaries and saying, well, no, I can't. I have a day job as well. I work 9 to 5. And also, yeah, it's just like, you don't want things to be overwhelming, do we? We just don't want things to be overwhelming.
So yeah, Tarek, go.
I just want to actually just add in that I also, one of the things that I've been doing more recently, and I think this lockdown has really pushed it, because there's requests to kind of get involved happen so much more during lockdown. Suddenly, well, because of the Black Lives Matter protests that were happening, I mean, yeah, so it's all of a sudden the requests were so thick and fast. So and it felt like I had to. So people would be asking things. I knew I was going to say no, but then even to explain to someone that I was going to say no, it felt like that was a long involved email. I just stopped answering them. If I don't want to do the thing, I might not even answer. And particularly if the request is like just total whack. Like if there's a request that's like, it's fine for me to ignore that I am busy. There is a pandemic on, and there has been a pandemic for the last 500 years called racism. You know, so like this that time's it's not a thing. So being able to just know being comfortable with your own boundaries, I think has been a good thing. I've been getting more comfortable with my own comfort and allowing myself to be comfortable, and that being okay. And I think maybe as marginalized people, we learn to not be comfortable and to accept and expect not being comfortable. And now I'm like, no, I want to have a nice, comfortable life, and I want other people to too. And I'm going to use what I have to creatively do that. And let's just have a good time and not always be like, at least I'm helping people. You know, fuck that. I want to help people and have a nice time.
100%. Sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just also like just having a bit more of an eye over like why they're asking. Like I feel like so much they're asking to tick a box, and it's like sometimes I'm like, okay, if a young, like for example, if the QTIPOC group at the uni asks something, I might think, okay, they're within our community, they're younger people, I want to give them, or yes, it's worth my time giving that even though I'm tired. If some corporation wants me to come and be on a panel so that they can tick a box and say, oh yeah, we did this, absolutely not. Those are the kind of people that do not get a reply from me. Do you get me? Some of them maybe, but also if they haven't told me in that email how this is important, why, how it's going to be embedded, you know, if it sounds very tick box, absolutely not. I'm totally with Tarek there of, yo, you ain't getting no reply. Because actually my time in replying and how has the tone sounded, and do I sound angry? And I am angry, but how do I sound not, you know, it's a lot, it's energy, you know, and that's what I've also had to tell myself. Email and admin is energy. You know, just because you sat at a computer, that's energy and time. And that's personally also something I've had to learn of. No, Chloe, it's not just one last email because you sat there for another half an hour doing other bits. So, you know, for me, that's kind of a bit more like firm boundary making that I've had to do for myself of actually, unless this is going to come back to support our community immediately, you go into kind of the bottom of the pile, to be honest, you know. And I think we've kind of all said, oh, saying no sounds difficult, but that's my thing of you know, if you're not us, then you're moving down. Sorry.
Yeah, so prioritizing setting standards, like this is what I will not go below, and then I will prioritize you within that standard to how important you are, and if you're at the bottom of the list, deal with it, move on. We're all Vish, and then I'm going to come to Linda.
Oh, my quick point was that, you know, running a group is a job, isn't it? It really is. Like, initially you start off thinking, oh, community, getting together, but it's actually being consistent, you know, doing things consistently and just taking that responsibility on. And it's really important when you have this extra job, you have to take a bit of a rest as well. So yeah, that's what I want. And also, I just to mention what Chloe said, my priority is QTIPOC, you know, QTIPOC. So any requests regarding that, for example, this panel, I was like, yes, let's do it. Because normally I don't like talking at all. I don't like talking. But because you guys invited me, I was like, I want to learn from all of you. I want to learn from all of you. So yeah, thank you.
Linda?
My last comment was really about not spreading oneself too thin is really important. If we're to be effective, it's good to be focused on what our remit is, and saying yes all the time just means you end up spreading, well, one ends up spreading oneself too thin is what I've learned, and then not really being very effective at all. So yeah.
So I just want one last, so we're coming to the end, so I was one last thing from everyone about, like, what will you tell either future generations about how to personally support themselves and organizationally support themselves, or an organization that is or someone that's thinking, like, I really need this in my city, but like I don't know what to do, I don't know how to do it, like, and I don't know how to build those structures, these foundations where I won't get overused and I won't be tired and I won't feel like I'm the only one carrying this torch, because really and truly they're not. And I feel like obviously cross-city collaborations are important, but besides that, I'm gonna go with Chloe, Vish, Linda, and then Tarek, if you please. So yeah, just one last like quick thought.
I think be unapologetic about your boundaries and what you want to do. And I think as Rainbow Noir's grown, more people are like, so are you going to do? Are you going to do? Are you going to do? And I did find myself kind of being like, no, a bit kind of apologetic about saying no. And I said, hang on, you know, actually what we're doing very well. And just because other people want something from us doesn't mean we have to fulfill that gap. So I would say, you know, be unapologetic about your boundaries and about where you want to go with something. And that's not to say never grow, but just kind of coming back to the idea of let you and your community itself dictate the pace. And also, I guess, like, within that, it's like, you know, if somebody wants to put on a night, which is what people always say, when's Rainbow Noir going to do a night? And it's like, do I look like a DJ? No. Do I look like a promoter? No. So if I can support you to put on a night, I would love to do that. But not everything has to come via the group. And it's also kind of bearing that in mind of saying to people, well, no, we can't do that. Also not being apologetic about that, but saying, how can I support you? Yeah, I can put you in touch with so-and-so. Now, be uplifted and fly, do you know what I mean? Because I think sometimes when people think you're a group, they just think you have unlimited resources, and then you want to give all the help, and then you end up almost resenting being in that position, which, you know, as Tarek mentioned before, is the worst place to be. So yeah, that's that would be my
I'm gonna have to move on, sorry.
What's this been put down? Okay, back on you.
Vish.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so mine's a quick one. I think it kind of echoes what Chloe said. I think signposting is really important. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be all on your shoulders. So if you do, if we do the research to begin with, and we can signpost people, you know, and just keep it manageable for yourself.
Perfect. Linda?
My hot top tip would be to reach out. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. Here we all are. You know, I reached out to Chloe when I knew Chloe existed, and we had a good chat. We had a couple of emails just sharing information. Similarly, when I met Tarek, we've talked further about, you know, just to share what information is out there, you know, because there is no point in reinventing the wheel.
Yes, I agree. Tarek? Oh, I
feel like you might have all said things that I would have said already. Stole my answers, all you lot. I think maybe then echoing. Maybe Chloe said it already, but it's knowing your remit. I think is good. Start when you're visioning what you want to be. Maybe even think think far ahead about the burnout bit and put it into the beginning. Like, how do you make sure we don't burn out? How do you make sure it doesn't come all on my shoulders? Like, maybe it's a thing that we always begin that decisions are made communally, or so I think they're just like, yeah,
Having a remit.
make it part of the technology. I think the technology of what you want your group to be. Make that in the description of what it is, at least for yourself, so you understand how it functions. That keeps you surviving as the person organising it. How does it contribute to your life, and how does it not
Perfect.
drain your energy?
Yeah, I love that. Go.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was just going to say, and ask for stuff. Like, you know, people have so much resource, building space. Like, we got our space for free for the first however many years because we didn't have any money. And, you know, and then people started to contribute little bits of money, and then we had money. And actually, you know, there's so many buildings with space. There's so many buildings with like little community pots that they want to give to people. So I'd also like, you know, often we kind of get into that thing of like, oh, we've not got anything, but cities are full of stuff that you can have if you ask for it. So don't be afraid to ask for stuff.
Know that it's there. Like, it's there. There are resources for you. As soon as you start doing it, people will want it.
And also, I'd like to say to one thing, like allies also signposts as well. Like, if you know an organization or you know someone, highlight it to someone. The amount of people that help me by being like, oh, I know this person that can help you with this thing. It's about our community, but also our allies as well, because we cannot testify, or we cannot like fight this whole oppressive power without white people and our allies out there helping us as well, where we can't sit at the table alone. So I would encourage all allies to help those people that need it but won't necessarily ask because they don't know how to. And also for ourselves to help our own communities, our own Black communities, to reach out. And like, having to find QTIPOC people is hard. So if you feel like you want to be a part of a community, come and join our groups and show the love, basically.
So
now, sorry, we're talking about funding, because funding is one of the most essential things to our survival, and it's important to how we progress. So Tarek, I wanted to come to you first. How did you acquire your funding? What was the process? And then what did you learn from it?
Okay, so I acquired funding through an application to the Rainbow Fund, which is a charity based in Brighton, in my local city. This is a charitable fund that gets its money from Pride. So every year, you know, tons of LGBT people come to the city and make donations to the city, in these charity boxes, and that gets distributed. In the past, it mostly got distributed to all white organizations, white-led organizations, probably mostly white membership as well. And so, not something that had a kind of Black-centered mindset. So I realized that actually that was something that we deserve to have in the city, or anywhere where people live, where there are people, we should be able to commune. So I did a simple application. When their funding round came through, I made it very clear that it was to support queer people of color. I was very specific again that it was for people of color only, and that it was an exclusive group, which actually I think sometimes some funding charity bodies maybe are a little bit scared by that idea. I did have to, it was a little bit frustrating at some point to have to explain to an all-white panel why it was important to have something that is exclusively for people of color only, for queer people of color. It was kind of a bit of a shame because it was like a gay group. All the people who were on that panel were all LGBT people who have made things that are just for LGBT people only. They're excluding straight people, so they understand that, but they did have at least one member had some trouble understanding that. But it was actually, the rest of the team was really supportive of it. The rest of the panel were very supportive. And I knew ultimately that they wanted it to happen. It's one of those things that I realized, wait a minute, this stuff has to exist. Like, this charity is meant to be supporting all people. We are part of all people. Your city council is supposed to be supporting all of the members of its city. If we're not being provided for, if we are somehow not being, if we as communities are not, are suffering, that's not right. And we're entitled to say, hey, here's an application. We know what we're doing. give us the money. And I would say 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the money.
I just wanted to quickly touch on that and ask you a question, because like often we do get the question of like, oh, you're just introducing segregation again, which I hate that word, because I'm like, yes, thank you, Chloe, roll those eyes. Right, so like I want to ask you, and then I want to go to Vish, because we're in very white predominant societies, and that's okay, but how do you deal with the conversation around like our groups segregating QTIPOC people and making it just for them? Like, how was that conversation, and then how did you work that into getting funding out of these people?
I talk about the importance of both radical inclusivity and radical exclusivity. I basically say they're both really important and they both have a place in society. So you can make things radically inclusive by making sure that from the root, who is being excluded, how do we get to the root to make sure that they're included? Radical exclusivity, what do people who are being excluded need to survive? Like,
Recover.
so yeah, so like I go via that route and say, listen, radical exclusivity is a thing, look it up. There's a name for it. It exists. It's valid. Thanks.
And Vish, like, how do you survive in Wales? Because I know, like, we've been to Wales. We know about Wales. So I'm not going to go into the details. But how do you acquire funding, and how do you deal with that conversation about radical exclusivity and being renamed as some kind of segregation, in that we want to be exclusive and exclude the white voice, which is not what we want to do, but we want to give a platform to us. So how do you deal with that whole road and pathway?
I think it's about like framing it in a way that what we're actually doing is addressing the unique issues that we as a community go through. So, for example, our attendees have a wide range of experiences. Some of them are asylum seekers, refugees, international students, and some of them are like, quite privileged like me, who are born and brought up in the UK or in Cardiff, So I think it's not about segregating, it's more about the group providing tools and skills to this diverse bunch of people so they can go out into the wider LGBT plus community to feel more empowered, to feel that they can take up that space. Because sometimes, well, I know personally, I've always lacked confidence. So going out into a white space or a white LGBT plus space, I think, oh gosh, am I welcome here? Do I feel a sense of nervousness, So I think it's about reframing it in the applications and saying, look, it's not about segregations. Allies are very much important to our community. Some of our meetups, we open up to the wider community. So white people are more than welcome to come along. And as you've seen, Lara, we've done, BAME Pride or Glitter Pride, and everyone was welcome. So we are keeping that conversation going, with wider communities. But at the same time, it's important to address those unique issues. And I think that has to be done amongst ourselves, So I think it's just about making that clear in the application. Just talking about some of the, actually, initially when I started the group, the whole prospect of applying for funding was so daunting. I was like, I can't even add up my own bank account. How am I gonna, get monies for a group? And that was a big barrier for me in, keeping the group going in a way, or us as a committee keeping the group going, because eventually you'll need money, just to provide the appropriate service to our group, So I would say we started funding about 2 years ago. We applied for 2 applications. The first one was through a supermarket, and it's called something called Groundworks. Has anyone heard of that at all? So yes, some nods there. And it was basically a bags of help scheme, I think it is. And it was through one of the major supermarkets. Yeah, it's the first time we've ever put an application in like that. It's basically a grant for a couple of £1,000, and we just filled in a form. It was done all online, and we were quite fortunate in getting the funds. So anyone starting a group shouldn't feel too daunted by the application. It was quite straightforward. It was like, put your name down and make sure you detail the goals that you have. Like, how are you going to use the money? And how are you going to split it, and then after we spent that pot of cash, we went to apply with the National Lottery. So we did that last year, and we got like quite a hefty amount, for us. And again, that was an online process, and we were very lucky as well. The person who was supporting us from the National Lottery was a BAME person themselves, and they were in particular a lookout for BAME organizations to acquire the funding, because I think they found there was a lack of applications for BME or ethnic minority organizations. So that was good that we had their support. That was good. But luckily we didn't have to go in front of any panels, because I would find that very daunting. But yeah, we were quite fortunate that we had a supportive, person to help us with.
I just wanted to touch on that that subject actually, because I'll come back to it. But like, how important is it for us to have people in positions that can help us, who are BME, or at least an ally that understands? Like, how, Chloe, I want to come to you. How important in terms of funding and applying for things and getting them is it to have people like us in those positions?
Yeah, it's really important, and that's what annoys me about organisations that say they want to diversify stuff, because they diversify people who are not decision makers, but then we don't become decision makers, and then we have to stand in front of people and prove our existence and prove the shit that we're going through, which is dehumanising in itself, and there isn't. I'm glad that they acknowledge that, Tariq, with your experience, but kind of like, yeah, but okay, so make sure that doesn't happen next year. Make sure 50% plus of that panel is not white. Do you know what I mean? Or not men or whatever. So yeah, it's one of my bugbears really. But it's something, it's like there's something happening with Consortium at the moment. They're doing like a kind of more of a community focused grant proposal thing where multiply marginalized communities are actually being in charge of putting together what the funding process looks like. And so there's a lot more involvement. And even with that, I sent an email today and said, okay, great. Is some of this also going to result in some people of color being employed by your organization and being higher up? It's like, and that's not to dismiss the intentions and good intentions and support from some white allies, but sometimes it feels like their support is here and it's like, but yo, you CEO, you just step down, or some of those managers need to move on so some people of color can come through. You know what I mean? So that kind of, it's where the ally, it's like only how far people want to do their allyship. It's like, we'll do some allyship so far, but I'm cushy sitting in my CEO position, or I'm cushy sitting in my manager position, and I'm not going to do anything to rock the boat up here. So that's not directed at that person particularly at all. It's just generally to say, that's it. I think people don't realise, they're like, oh, well, our staff team generally, is more diverse. And someone said to me at a panel, coined the term like Guinness organisations. So it's like, your cleaners are black and people of colour, your servers, the people who are doing the groundwork, they're people of colour, the people, if you're going to be hierarchical, lower down, that frothy white top of the Guinness, do you know what I mean? CEOs, managers, decision makers, board, it's white. So actually, it's really important you said that, because I think, and even kind of just bearing in mind with Tariq's experience, like people, I just hate it. Even when you were saying, you're having to prove why, I shouldn't have to prove, I shouldn't have to say that we're sad and we're oppressed and we're this and we're this, because there's so many other white groups that do not have to do that. Do you know what I mean? So we have to, and I think that funding, that's where funding feels uncomfortable for me sometimes, because we have to paint ourselves as victims with this. Yeah, we are marginalised, that's not a lie. But, sometimes we shouldn't have to only have funding for when we're suffering. Do you know what I mean? Where's our funding for our joy? Because our joy has been taken away by organisations that are excluding us. Do you know what I mean? So I know we have to play the game, but the ideal would be to say, yo, we want some funding for some QTIPOC boy. Not because we're sad, not because this, not because that, because we need joy. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah. Collective joy. We want to introduce more collective joy and not collective suffering. And I totally agree with you. It's about having people in those higher positions, but also having just structural changes that will enable us to not have to, I'd say not beg, but also please, sir, ask for more kind of to funding, which I don't really like. So how integral, Linda, and I don't know if we've actually approached this, but how integral do you think councils could be, and how do you think, how have Kiki acquired funding, and what ways in which would you like more support of funding in Bristol?
So it never occurred to me at any point until I spoke to Tariq in the lead up to this event that we could even approach a council. I don't know why I didn't think that, because obviously it's a civic organisation put together using our funds. So we should definitely be getting a slice of that pie, and it hadn't occurred to me. And I think there's something to do with, I haven't got to the root of why, because it really troubled me that I hadn't, because it's like a bit like I used to go to my GP asking for something. until I realised, now hold on a minute, my taxes and insurance pays for this person's wages, and they're there to facilitate my health, and I know my body best. So it's that same sort of things. Like, I can't applaud what you were saying enough, Chloe. I mean, I'm really glad that I was on mute because I was swearing heavily in agreement. You know, we really do not need to be going around with a begging bowl. And we are going to apply to whoever has got a pot of money to get money from, because we pay taxes, right? We're citizens in this world, and our governments take money off us, and they need to be redistributing that money, and we deserve a slice of the pie. So in terms of what we, you know, there's things like the national lottery. Again, it hadn't occurred to me to apply to the national lottery. So this is why these sort of conversations are so important. I feel like I'm learning a lot.
The national lottery one is quite a simple application as well,
Right.
and you don't even have to be an organisation that is like
governance.
Governed. You haven't got to have a company set up or anything. You can just be some people who've just started, which is really helpful.
That's been one of our major stumbling blocks with Kiki, because we're still a voluntary-led organisation, and we've kind of gone from one, before we knew it, 3 years have gone by, and we're in the process now of formalizing ourselves so we can apply for things, and we haven't, you know, sort out a bank account and all of those things, rather than so those have been our stumbling blocks actually now, because there's knowing that the pots of money are out there, but then actually we have to get our house in order and to be able to
talk about one more stumbling block.
The national lottery.
2 minutes to go. Like, one more stumbling block. I feel like the assimilation that we kind of have to do is in like how the tone of applications, and how, because sometimes I feel like particularly maybe young people, different types of people, like in the way you apply, like, so say going to an all-white panel it's about knowing how to talk to these people to get the money that we need, right? It's about how our tones are not seeming aggressive, or not seeming demanding, and not seeming these ways. So like, how do you deal with that, having to be these things and then still asking for money and not feeling like diminished? Chloe, I would like to come to you for that.
I think sometimes recognizing that you're playing a game, and that framework sometimes helps, knowing that, okay, I know that putting these figures in will help me, or mentioning this piece of research will help here. I think if there is space to kind of articulate positives about your community, or reasons why, for example, we're marginalized or more depressed or whatever, that's really important as well. That's a kind of reframing of actually structural racism and other, you know, marginalized factors put us here. Like, we're not by default more sad or victims. Actually, you men have done this. So some of that, but also just like diversifying where you look for money. So sometimes we've received grant off this guy who just inherited loads of money. He didn't want no figures or anything. He just got it and wanted to give us some money. You know, there are more radical community-based pots of funding that don't expect that same level of you having to victimize your own community and come with that police circle and have some more kind of mentality. So really kind of looking to diversify who you're asking for money, because sometimes these bigger people like National Lottery or Heritage Fund and all these places, they're very keen on the feedback, the detail, the numbers, and you then have to lean into that narrative. Whereas, you know, there are other radical, you know, pots of funding, or more community-based pots of funding that just require a bit less from you. So I would look around really and know that you don't have to go big to get money, and get a donate button. You know, even though, I mean, over the last few months, so many people have given us money, and it's felt a bit strange, you know, because it's come out of white guilt and Black Lives Matter mobilization and movement. And, you know, we do have Black people, loads of Black people in our group. So I guess it's good in some ways. And actually those people have thought about wanting to support Black queer people. Yeah. Anyway, weirdness around that, but get a donate button, because people who've got money will give to you. And we've received quite a lot of donations over the last few months, you know, from various different people. Definitely set up that paypal.me/group, you know, allow that white guilt change to come into your bank account, because, you know, I want to give it, so take it. Do you know what I mean?
Reparations. Perfect. Sorry to just shout reparations, but Linda reminded me that we need our reparations, and we'll take it any way, which way we can. We'll either take it by force or take it by donation. So that concludes our funding talk. I would like to now move on to our future, because everything's about vision, about youth, as well as our aging QTIPOC people. We love every part of the QTIPOC identity and different ages. So we really want to know I want to know about where your vision is for your group's future, and how you want to get there. Like, what do you see yourself putting in place that will allow you to get to those places? Because I think something Tarek said earlier was that, like, and something I've done with my company is, like, you set the goal and then you work backwards, and I find that's a really good way of kind of putting in place the things that allow you to get to where you want to go. So Linda, just let me know where you think Kiki could go and your vision, and just your personal aspirations as well for Kiki.
So a key thing you mentioned was about age. So for any organization to survive and to thrive, it has to have a focus on the future, which immediately, of course, points to the youth. As I mentioned before, when we were talking about the organizations, Bristol's a funny city because a lot of the youth that are in the city are here to study. They finish their studies, sometimes they stay, but they often leave. So I think that's something that is possibly a stumbling block, because we can obviously work with those, or socialize and create a space for that population, but then in the long term that doesn't serve the city as such. What I'm really interested in doing is the cross-generational, finding the local QTIPOC community and connecting them with older generations of QTIPOC folk to create family, essentially, because as we know, so many of our communities suffer from sort of disassociation or being cast out from their families, and I think it's really important. It's what saved me when I was a young person and I came out. My family were absolutely 100% against what I was up about, and I thankfully had a community. I lived in London at the time. I could go out and found aunties and uncles and mums and dads and older lovers, etc., who brought me on. And so I think that's something I'm really keen for Kiki to create a really good foundation of that. So when we're all gone, it still is there as a family space. Ask me the question again. Sorry, I forgot something you said.
No, so it's just your personal aspirations and vision. So like you talked about the intergenerational communication, which is very key to anything surviving, but like, where would you personally want to be with Kiki in, say, I don't know, however long you would like to
Yeah, I'd just like us to be a really established space that has a kind of, like, I've always had a vision of it being like an umbrella organization. So it's not really not with any one strand, because as many QTIPOC people there are as many kind of what's the word, loves and passions that we have. Two of our group are really into plants that we're sitting with now. Some people might be into cricket, some people might be whatever it is. So I think I'd like an organization that has the potential for anyone who wants to make something happen, with the support of whoever wants to be part of it. I think that's how I always envisioned Kiki being, so it's more than any 6 people or 5 people, but it's an organization for everyone who wants to take part and make something happen.
And just quickly, because I'm just going to come around to each of you and get your advice, but like, so things like Black Pride and events like Black Pride, why are they so important to our future and our collaborations? And why is this collaboration in particular, because I know you're the one that started this with Miles, why is this in particular important for our future?
I think we need space to recover and to replenish ourselves. I can't remember which one of you said it. It might have been Vish or Tarek, that when we're in space together, there's an ease that happens. Like, I don't have to hide any bit of myself, or I don't have to, kind of put anything behind me. I could just be my full self. I don't feel like I have to edit myself. And I think that's really important for our community, because we've all been through a lot of not, being rejected or by society or by families or workplace or whatever. We've, the intersectional prejudice that we face is a lot. So it's really important that we have spaces where we can heal, we can party together, we can talk, cry, whatever, eat, that sort of thing. So that's what Kiki came out of. Kiki originally had 3 parts. It was it was called What Are Us, where you could talk about whatever was upsetting you in society, and then you could sit and eat together and then have a dance and do some performance. And I think those things are really, really important. I'm all about the QTIPOC joy.
Collaboration.
And crying as well. Crying is good too.
So I love that. So Vish, where do you see Glitter Cymru going, and why are collaborations like these important for you to get there?
I'm quite a cautious person, so I don't have like huge aspirations. I just want to be consistent. I want the group to stay established, as Linda said, you know, and keep motivating people to volunteer and to be part of it. You know, I think keeping that momentum going. It's interesting because Lara, we have a lot of students as well in Cardiff. Like we have at least 3 like universities. And I would like to like maybe tie in more with the younger people through these organizations, perhaps. I think just working with educational institutions, working with local LGBT charities, that'll be amazing. But just keep going. I think it can be tough. It can be really tough. And
Why are
also,
collaborations important?
what's that? Sorry, Lara.
Why are collaborations important, and how will they be in your future?
And I would love to collaborate with all of you guys, with all of you, you know, your groups. That'd be amazing. A cross network, you know, queer POC group. That'd be amazing. That'll keep us all going, wouldn't it? That's amazing. So why do I think it's important? Yeah. Just that validation that we bring to one another, that, you know, we exist. As Linda said, you know, we've been rejected by, you know, everyone and above. And it's just nice to be around people who have the same aims, goals, in order for us to be invisible.
Perfect. I love that. And Tarek, just to come to you, because you are only a year old, but doing amazing things. And I would love to collaborate with you, but from your perspective, where do you see it going, your organization? Like, where do you see it supporting and like infiltrating? And then why, again, are collaborations like this important to you personally?
So something that I actually have been thinking about, and I had already made a few efforts to start trying to make it happen, was collecting together the various QTIPOC groups around the country. I did send an email over to Glitter and over to you, Linda, and I think you got one as well, Chloe. But we're all so busy. What I was trying to do was trying to get just to get permission from people to say, yeah, do what you, just put our names down and get some funding together, and then get some money together so that we can pay ourselves to work together. Because I feel like we could do with being able to, there should be a network around the country so that people can know that we can travel around the country, and wherever we go, there are QTIPOC who are going to welcome us in, and that we can just like write in, hey, I want to go and get some new hair products. What's going on in your city where I can get it from? Or is anything happening in the city tonight or whatever? And I just feel, you know, to give us, I'm really aware that I think I travel less around the country than, or I feel I have more anxiety about traveling around the country than some of my white counterparts. And it's obvious the reasons why for that. You know, I don't even, I could go to Bristol because you're all over there, but I might have, actually only one time when someone called me a fag was in Bristol. But you know what I mean? Like, but so it's good to know that there are people supporting. If something like that happens, that I've got, you know, crew everywhere. So I'd like to see more of that happening. And I was also thinking about, just in general, what rhizomes is. What a rhizome is, it's a natural formation, unlike a tree where you have the central body and then branches coming off it. So often when you do organizing, people often think about trees, they compare their organizing structures to like a tree with branches coming off, but then that does mean there's always a central column. And the rhizomes are structures like a ginger root where there's no central thing, it's just shooting off all over the place. And so that's the idea of a kind of decentralized growth for QTIPOC. And I imagine that like growing over the country. So part of me also had this idea of like rhizomes all over the country, particularly if we're using this model of get money from your council, get money from your local pride. Just basically, here's the places where you should guaranteed be getting some money from, and then that should give you a chunk of money to do something to get started. And I was thinking that we can share our programs together, because actually, if we programming sometimes is just a little bit complicated. It doesn't need to be, because the stuff that I do is quite simple. But even just coming up with ideas and like, well, people want to do this, or, you know, so sharing some of those things could make some things simpler. Last thing, more stuff with the actually kind of reflecting on what Linda said, younger, old people, cross-generational. I have had someone already approach me, an LGBT youth organization in Brighton, have already asked if they can collaborate with us for making a QTIPOC group. And we have had someone asking, a white mum with a QTIPOC kid, asking for some support in the past, and that was before we had anything that we could do for that. So I'm really pleased that things are starting to move in there. But I really would like to do things with our elders as well. I'm meant to be making a film with older QTIPOC at the moment, but I'm like, I don't know any older QTIPOC. That's going to be interesting. I'm going to be tapping you up. Yeah.
Sharif is a good person to go for that, so I'll put you in touch with her. But also,
And I'm old.
not
This
as
is the problem. Older QTIPOC don't look old, so it's hard to know.
Like,
I think
like,
you're 20.
what age are you?
What?
25 or 50? Like, no one knows.
Indeed.
Like Gabrielle Union, no idea what age she is. But also, like, yes, I'll come to you in a sec, but I think one of the things that I think would be really good would be to have something that, not the government, but like it is a mandate that councils have to have a segment of their money go to our organizations, so we can have a cross-country network. Because just thinking about it makes me smile, like having that, like, oh yeah, I can go to Manchester and be like, oh yeah, hit Chloe up and be like, have you got any events tonight, like can we talk, like things like that people don't feel so alone. Because I feel like one of the upsetting things about being QTIPOC is the loneliness and the isolation you can feel for just existing as yourself, right? And I know I'm the moderator, so I'm not meant to be putting my opinions in, but here I am putting my opinions in.
Break the rules.
Plus no one can tell me that. So like, so do we do have to, I think, have, and I'm putting this to councils and the government, that we should have a segment, not just Bristol Pride, not just Brighton Pride, but we should have a QTIPOC funding pot that helps all of us and helps new startups to come into fruition. Because again, it's too hard to keep it's nice to have a safety net, because sometimes you can't get funding, sometimes you have to like scrabble around for the things that you need, and we don't want to have to do that for our basic needs to be met. Yes, Linda, you wanted to say something.
I was going to ask you and break the rules and ask the moderator what you wanted to see for Kiki and for I think you've just answered it.
I did. Yeah,
Maybe.
sorry. I will come to you, Chloe, in a bit, but yeah, I'm so with my company, it's I really loved, I think from you I got this idea of having an umbrella. So like I bring all the organizations I know under one roof. Like I'm not trying to reinvent a wheel, I'm just trying to, the wheels that are already out there, I'm trying to support and make prosper and like help them, because I can't do it all by myself. Like I can't reach every QTIPOC or scientist or whoever I'm trying to go for. I can't help all of them. It's about having ambassadors that will do it for you, right? So yes, I agree with all of you. A network across the UK and beyond, actually. One of my goals would be to connect with African and Caribbean QTIPOC groups because we need to connect with our roots and our diaspora, because we need to support each other. It's too hard. Like people, especially in African and Caribbean countries where we are still prosecuted and we are still undercover, and yeah, we have found ways of surviving. But I want the UK, where we are more privileged, and I hate saying we're more privileged, but we are technically way more privileged than a lot of asylum seekers and people like that. I want to offer them even just a communication link to be like, okay, we want to do this and we want to help, and I want to actually be able to fund them as well. Eventually I want to be like, okay, we have this pot of money to send to you to do this thing, or put this event on, or you put this event on for us, or something like that, just to support that community. Linda, yes. Linda, yeah, do you want to go? Oh, and
sorry, just getting overexcited, and I was best to keep still in my seat. Yes, I spoke to Lady Phil of UK Black Pride and said, would it be possible for us to, like, and she's already started to do this work through her Kaleidoscope trust job, to reach out to organisations in like I'm my heritage. I was adopted by a Ghanaian mother, so I grew up in Ghana, and though it's not at the moment illegal, so much infiltration of the fundamental Christian American movement of poisoned a lot of the church's minds, and in a lot of Africa, and certainly in Ghana. And I was really keen to, like, for our organisation, for instance, to pair up, like, you know, have sister and brother and sibling organisations in other countries where we go and march with them for Pride. Just that really, because, you know, we can do that because we're likely to be able to then get on a flight and come back to UK, and we are privileged because no one's trying to hunt my ass down for being gay here, right? So for us to do that and just take up the space and make up just visibility again. So that's why I could barely keep myself contained in my seat.
One thing, and I promise I'll come to you, Chloe. One thing I also do believe in is educating our younger generation about the actual past of Africa and its its homosexuality, because it's not part of our culture to demonize or be homophobic or transphobic. It's actually a part of like a lot of indigenous it's a lot of colonial bullshit. It's a lot of colonial BS that we've learned, this homophobia and transphobia, and I want generations to come to not go through what we've gone through in believing that we're unnatural and it's not a black thing and it's a white thing that we've kind of learned because we live in Britain, and it's not that. I want to educate people. It's and any 16-year-olds out there that believe that it's them and it's not part of our culture. Your ancestors were queer. I'm going to say this now. I'm going to say it loud. I'm going to say it proud. Your ancestors were queer as yes.
Earth is queer. Nature is queer. It's a queer thing.
Indeed.
Queerness is natural.
Literally, it's so natural. So Chloe, I want to know, because you have been the longest one, and I'm actually glad because I saved you to last, because you have been the longest running. So you've seen a lot of your vision actualized and come into fruition. So where do you feel like you still left to grow? And like what do you want to see personally in terms of for future generations or future collaborations?
I'll start with younger people, because I'm actually a co-director of Colours Youth Network, which is a QTIPOC youth network for QTIPOC youth workers and QTIPOC youth in the UK. We've existed for about 4 years now. We run a national residential each year and a festival. So kind of I'm hoping that because it's national, we can engage, and we have engaged with quite a good spread of over some of the bigger cities in the UK, coming through to that festival and kind of seeing that they're not the only ones. They've met other activists and youth workers doing stuff. So I think Colours Youth Festival, I can't talk about it enough, and we're really excited to just have been independent now. So we're independent from our white organisations. We're doing it for ourselves. And that's, I guess, a way that we're hoping to kind of raise up young people to become passionate about kind of community leading if they want to. Because the big thing for us is also we need to just have QTIPOC who are just living their best lives as people. You know, we don't always have to be destined to be activists, which I think I'm really passionate about, because I think a lot of people take it on, and we don't all have to do that. You know, you can be running your admin company or being a builder or whatever and be loud and proud of who you are, do you know what I mean? But so that's one thing. But also I'd say if you have the time and capacity to kind of get involved with, well, like Tariq said, the LGBT youth groups in your city, but also the black groups in your city, or the people of colour youth groups or organisations. And I think because I work for an LGBT organisation and I've done POC work within my role, I've been able to quite kind of infiltrate and meet people and chat and whatever. But you know, who are your youth workers that are people of colour? Who are they working with? You know, are they conscious? Are they talking about LGBT stuff? Because actually this isn't our job, that's their job too, you know? So if there's ways to get into schools to do talks, if that's what you want to do, cool. But actually we need more conscious allies that are people of colour doing this as well. You know, we've talked about white allies. I'm kind of more interested in our POC allies, to be fair, because that's where I want to invest more of my time. So you know, white allies are very important as well, but actually we talk a lot about white allies and we forget that we've got loads of POC allies already. They're youth workers, they're teachers, they're community leaders. Do they know your names? Do they know what you're about? Do you know what I mean? So investing in those spaces is definitely kind of really important as well.
Very good point. In terms of Rainbow Noir though, how do you see that going forward?
Yeah, I kind of similar to what everyone said. I want to stay comfortable and not go too wild. And to be honest, we have had quite a lot of donations over the past few months, and some bigger organizations have run some kind of bigger campaigns and have donated money, which has been amazing. And what we've kind of explored is to run that as like a QTIPOC Excellence Fund. So, you know, the people who are coming to us in the city saying, can you do this? You know, actually we're able to say, no, but here's a couple £100. Can that get you a logo for that night you want to run? Or no, we can't do that, but we can give you the space. So actually wanting to, as kind of Linda said, really become a bit more of a hub to lift up other things happening. Because some of the things that I find most like, is that everyone's like, Rainbow Noir, do everything. And it's like, actually, we do loads already. Like, we don't want to be the only people. I don't want to be the only person who's a leader in the city. I'm not already, but often people look to me that way. And it's like, I don't want that. Actually, I want to lift you up and lift you up and lift you up. And I want to step back. Do you know what I mean?
That's why I came with the word rhizomes. I was like, this is not going to all be about me. You'll need to start popping up soon.
And it's not healthy. It's not actually community, really, if it's led by one person. And often it kind of forms that way, and we know why. But I think it comes, you have to learn to be like, all these other people, you are great, and actually one thing I'm very proud of and gassed about in Rainbow Noir is people have started to do that, and I'm seeing more people on boards and who are being inspired, because I think there's that feeling of, if you feel like an everyday person and maybe you aren't involved in activism or something, and you kind of feel like, but where's my voice? And somebody said the other day, actually, on a live on Instagram, they were talking about community organising and how they got into it. And they were like, actually, I realised I have experience. I have 30 years of I've lived experience of being a QTIPOC human being. That is value. And when people see that, they don't have to be the loud activist. They don't have to be the wacky artist who's making movements. It's actually, you have value in that. And now they're on a board of here. They've applied for this equality and diversity thing, a national thing. I'm like, I'm so gassed for that person. And the more that happens, the happier I am, because it's like, yo, we're everywhere. We need to infiltrate, raise up. Do you know what I mean? It can't just be us as
100%.
individuals.
100%. Right. I feel like this has been an amazing discussion, and I want to say thank you to all of you for all your amazing contributions. We want to end on an empowering, loving note, because we love our community, we love ourselves, and we love what we do for ourselves and our community. So I want to kind of do a show and tell kind of situation. Go and get your plants, get whatever you can, your artwork. So I'm going to start off, because I am a scientist and I do a PhD, and people often say to me like, oh, what, you're an artist? I'm like, yes, I actually do love doing art. So yeah, so like, this is my art, so feel free to comment. But yeah, like, so I draw flowers, do loads of different shit, like, yeah, just like, I feel like my art empowers me to feel more zen, and it's like the one time my brain is filled with nothing other than how am I going to get this color to blend in a particular type of way, and I don't have to think about the million and other things that I've got on my schedule. And it's kind of too intoxicating to me, but like, that's what I do. I love art fills my soul, and art is blackness is art. It's within our culture. If you actually look at the Black culture, we are some of the best and earliest artists out there, because we have such a freedom of expression. So Bish, do you want to show a little bit of your art?
Yeah, so during COVID, I managed to buy some oil paintings, and ta-da! So it's just a bunch of flowers, and I'm not really an artist, but
it's
cute,
just like, it's beautiful.
I just like colors, and I think it's quite vibrant, and it just, gets me out in the zone, thinking about something else.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of Lego. Can you imagine? So I built this car. Living my best life.
Yes.
And I'm buying lots of stuff on eBay, lots of kitschy stuff, which makes me so happy. And just random stuff. I'm just buying so many things.
Nice, thank you.
Whatever gets me through, right?
Honestly, whatever gets you through, I'll be here for it. I'll pay for it for you. Tarek, what have you got? I see your planty boys behind you. Yes, show me those cacti. You're on mute.
Look at that guy, that chunky boy here. Look at him.
Yes,
And
mate.
this Hawaiian palm and these babies, mother of thousands. So I've been really enjoying them. But actually, something else I have really enjoyed is at the Sunday market, local Sunday market, I found a bunch of ancient Egyptian figurines.
Ooh.
I mean, the figurines weren't made in ancient Egyptian times, obviously, but I've got about 20 of these, all of them with the name of each one.
Yeah.
And this guy's got a scarab head, a beetle head. They're really cool, and I put them in amongst the plants and things, and I'm really loving them. Look at this guy.
Ooh,
I know.
Love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Back to ancient Egypt, where we were black. Right. Okay. So Sorry, Jesus was also black. Just gonna say that now again. Linda.
Black as anything.
Oh, yeah, I love that. Linda, do you want to
bring it back? Where's it gone? You put it away too quick. Sorry, Tarek.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. What was it?
Oh,
nice little body
they're
there.
beautiful.
Yeah,
I love the name of your
His feet fell
plants
off.
as well. The plants sound so interesting. Got such good names. Mother of Thousands. Sounds like something out of Game of Thrones.
Oh, I thought you were calling yourself Mother of Thousands. I was just
No,
like,
that's her name.
I'll
That's
go
what
with
she's
it.
called.
Oh,
Yeah.
fair. I was about to go with that. I was like, yeah, I can be a Mother of Thousands
It's
too.
because of her dangling babies, you see. She has all these babies that dangle off from her.
I do love those ones. Okay, so we're gonna go to Linda and then Chloe.
So what I love reading. I love reading very, very much. It was my childhood love, and I'm so happy to have rekindled it because I nearly killed my love for reading when I was doing my BA. I had to read a lot of things I didn't want to read, and so I've rekindled that, which is great. I've gone back to my old Octavia Butler books and started reading right from the start of the series again, and bought a couple that were missing, and Ursula Le Guin and all that kind of things. I love science fiction. I'm also a maker. I make things. So I've got a little, very delicate felt. You see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Tree and little stars and things, and I have little sculptures, and so I like fiddling about with wood. So that's my perpetual woman in motion. Yeah, with a little copper hair. So yeah, that's the sort of thing. Reading and making stuff and playing music mostly is what sees me through. Can I share a poem with you?
Yes.
My very dear friend died, and when he died, he had his, the thing that they make for people, at their funerals, and he had this poem that he shared from because I practice Buddhism, and our mentor wrote this poem, which has become my almost daily reading matter, and it says, "A great future lies ahead of you. You must fix your eyes on that future, never losing sight of your goal, even for a single moment. Centuries, tens of centuries, have waited for you to arrive and have been preparing for you. You are the ones who have now appeared so mystically. Your victory will be the victory of humanism. Your defeat would be the defeat of hope. Hence, you must win in everything. You must fight with an indomitable spirit." And that's by Daisaku Ikeda, and that has become my fuel every morning to get going when I finish my chanting. Thank you.
Perfect. And Chloe, would you like to share a little bit of what you have?
Well, I'm going to introduce you to Vivian, which is my biggest and most treasured plant. This is Vivian.
Hello, Vivian.
Yeah.
I love her. I love her pot.
Yes. Come through.
This is one of her new leaves.
Yeah.
And I've just been really enjoying watching her grow, and some other plants on my windowsill there.
What has it done for you, like watching your planties grow?
Yeah, I feel like the greenness of plants is really like calming, and I just love them. Like, I feel like, and actually I feel like the greenness of the plants reminds me of my dad's house, which is full of plants, and it's kind of like, I feel like it grounds me to be like, oh, I feel like this is home now. If I didn't have any plants in my house, I think I'd be a bit like, oh, this isn't home. So
and plus our culture is in plants and nature and things like that, so it's not abnormal for us to have,
especially in a flat. You don't have a garden, so I feel like you have to fill it with stuff.
100%.
I feel so much more able to just relax in my home now that I have plants in here. I've lived here for 3 years. I love my home, and I've always felt relaxed here. But then now that the plants are in here, I notice that, like, for example, I used to watch a lot of TV in the evenings. I don't anymore. I sit and look at my plants, and then me and my housemate will just like talk about our plants instead and be like, this guy is doing this and that. And there's something it's really changed how comfortable I can just relax in this space in a whole different way, just casting my eye around the room, and it just makes me feel really nice inside. I'm all smiley just looking at them. It's really weird.
So that concludes our session for today. I do podcasts, but yes, I have loved you all. Thank you. I'd like to thank Linda as well for bringing us together, but also all of you for showing up and talking so candidly about us and our futures and our aspirations. So before I ask everyone to say just a quick goodbye, I want to kind of leave you with a quote from James Baldwin, who was a queer black man in the civil rights movement who was amazing, and it's my favorite quote. And it's, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." So please take that through with you to your future. So yes, Bish, would you like to say goodbye?
Oh, thank you for having me. I feel so inspired by all of you. Yay!
Yeah, Tarek.
Thank you. I'm so glad that I went past my usual boundary of finishing at 6 o'clock and sticking with you all, because I feel absolutely like brilliant for that. So thank you so much.
And Chloe?
Yeah, man, big love just, for this past space, and kind of going back to what Tarek said, I just feel so full now. I'm like, yeah, man, spot with my peoples. So thank you.
And Linda?
I'm so proud of us all. Thank you so much. My cheeks are actually aching from smiling a lot. It's so lovely. Thank you so
That's
much.
my favorite. That's my favorite ache, is the achy cheeks from the smiles. I love that. Ow, my cheeks hurt.
We just wanted to say a final happy Pride, and we hope you have a lovely time. Bye,
Yes,
everyone.
happy Pride.
Bye.
Bye.